Hey, good evening, everybody. Jeff here with Defensive Shooting Skills and DSS. What the heck is going on? We kind of got a double podcast and a YouTube going all at the same time here tonight. We're going to talk about a little bit different for the when it comes to the defensive shooting or DSS. We're going to actually be talking not about guns per se tonight, just about general topics that are going on in the country and things that's going on. It's getting crazy out there, guys, and it's just going to get crazier. Talk a little bit on people's views, what's going on, some of the topics we want to talk about Ukraine, a little bit about the guy in Buffalo. I don't want to get a lot into that because I don't want to glorify this guy because that's what he wants, and I'm not going to do it. But I want to talk about some of the things that the agenda, what the left has done in actually trying to take advantage of that, and talk about what's going on with inflation. And we got a guest tonight, actually somebody that I'm hoping is going to be a regular on the show, and we have Audra Johnson, who is was running for Congress,
yeah.
And they redistrict everything, and it took her out of the district that she was running in. But she's well known. Some of you guys may have known her as the Trump bride. Very versed in politics and what's going on in the world. So I had her on the show. She had her own show on Facebook.
Yep.
That was Bald Eagle and the Badger or something like that. A while back, and so had her because she's well versed in this. She knows what's going on. Sharp lady. She's got a good head on her shoulders. So I wanted to get her involved with this. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
So we're glad to have you. Glad to have you. So now, before we get started on everything else, let's talk about what's going on locally here in politics.
Ooh.
I mean, it can be kind of a crazy thing.
A little bit.
So.
Little bit. I think it's actually people are. I think they're going to be very astounded. Like again, I get in a lot of trouble, right? Like I preach, and I think it's come to the point where we absolutely have to acknowledge that the corruption is on both sides. It's a Democrat thing, it's a Republican thing, and I think that's where I get in trouble a lot. I think people don't want to acknowledge that we have a serious issue in this country, and there's no way we're going to fix it unless we can acknowledge the corruption on the Republican side too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not need to bring his name up, but Pete Meyer.
Oh.
I mean, I'll bring him up. Him and I actually had a phone conversation, and he wanted me to support him, and I said, no, I won't do it. And he said, why? I said, Pete, you're a rhino.
Right.
You're a rhino.
Right.
Flat, straight out rhino.
Right.
And he said, why do you say that? I said, all your donations are public record.
Yes.
I said, that is open for everybody to see. Right. And all of your donations, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, are going to the Democratic Party and people running in New York and different states like that. And his comment to me goes, well, these are people that I was in the military I can't support with. I said, Pete, not all these ladies or people, and these people were in the military.
Right.
I said, you didn't serve in combat with these. You didn't serve in, and he just kind of shut up. I said, you're a rhino.
Yep.
I said, you're running on your grandparents' name.
That is.
I said, you're a trust baby.
That is.
I said, I don't think you've probably had to ever worry for anything in your life.
Never.
And so, no, I would never vote for you.
Well, and I think that's, as you said, I ran against him before the district lines got changed. And I think that was one of the things that people really identified with me. I absolutely denied any PAC money, and there was a lot of PAC money.
Oh my gosh, the rumors were flying everywhere.
Oh my God, yeah. What was the first one was that I got paid to drop, and then we purchased our new house.
I heard that. Yes. I'm glad that you posted the thing from the VA loan to show that.
Yeah, that's how transparent I have been through this whole process. There was. Supposedly I got a $200,000 payoff to drop, which wouldn't even cover half of my house, first of all. But it's just a consistent, and what's really funny about these rumors and the different things that go on within like even the Patriot movement is the people that are accusing me of this stuff is actually the people that are taking the payouts, that are taking the PAC money. So I literally had to, I think it was like the, what was it? The acceptance letter for our VA loan. I had to literally post it online and be like, okay, listen, you want truth, you want transparency. Here's our acceptance letter from the VA, because my husband fought for, almost a decade as a Marine and in the Army. And, it's just kind of insulting.
Well, that and he drives a truck, and every time he's hardly ever home. It seems like because
Right.
this guy is working
All the time.
I mean, kudos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one lucky woman for sure, but yeah, it's very insulting. He's home maybe 4 days a month, maybe that. Like, our truck broke down recently. He was home for a week and a half, so now he's gonna have to be on the road till July 4th, which is our wedding anniversary.
Just to make up.
For
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and with a truck, if you're a truck driver, people don't know if that truck's not rolling, you're not making money.
Done. Yeah,
you're not making money.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thing with the, the truck convoy and all that. People were like, "Well, why aren't you guys participating?" And it was kind of like, "Well, you have to understand, we're off the road for a week. It's not that we aren't making money because we're not, but it's also okay. That week we have to make up for a truck payment. That week we have to." Still pay our insurance, still pay, all of our bills. So kudos to the truck companies that were able to do that for sure. But we definitely weren't.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I know I got some friends of mine that used to team drive, and they said that that's the best way they could make money because when one was sleeping, the other one was driving. Because as long as those wheels are moving, they were making money.
Yep.
But, kind of thing about the trucking industry right now, I mean, running out of diesel. I mean, that's scary with what's going on there.
Yeah.
I've got a friend of mine, actually, he took my instructor course just a few months ago, or not a few months, about a month and a half ago. He owns a trucking company. He lives in Kalamazoo, and they do a lot of hauling of actually different things from Grand Rapids to Detroit and back and forth, and then down into Ohio and things. And he said that fuel costs are starting to get to the point to where it's killing him.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is, with the shortage going on, I was asking him about him last week, and I said, "What about this? I heard there's a diesel shortage." He goes, "Oh my goodness." He said, "Right now it's hitting the East Coast, the Atlantic corridor." And he goes, "It's starting to move as a wave across." And he said they're actually bringing fuel from the West Coast out of Seattle and Oregon and Northern California, bringing it over just to try to supplement it.
And there's there's a reason for it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. We have a surplus of oil. If the Democrats will let us.
And just here, I don't know if you know about this last week, that the Biden administration actually canceled multiple contracts out of Alaska where they couldn't produce, and then goes to Venezuela and tries to get them to produce more oil.
Right.
So let's pay a terrorist country. Let's pay a country that is very, a communist country, basically, that has their people under their thumb.
Right.
Let's pay them.
Right.
I don't get it.
We were fully efficient on ourselves, or dependent on ourselves. We had, it's about the whole America first process, right? Like, let's take care of our country first. Let's make sure we have the oil, the farming, everything set up first before we can even think about doing anything else. But the sad truth is the Democrats, and yes, some Republicans, want us dependent on the government. Mm-hmm. Because if we're dependent on the government, they can roll us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not only that, but when it comes to, with this administration, he's trying to cater to the very far left that wants this Green New Deal and all these things, which is absolutely unobtainable.
What, you don't want cow farts?
No, personally, I don't want to smell a cow fart, but I understand. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, but the thing is, they talk about, we want this Green New Deal for our country, but for the United States, but what people don't realize is the countries that produce the most O2 are China and India.
Yep.
So, and if they're not going to do anything, I mean, what we're doing is like peeing in the ocean and having to make a difference.
Right.
It's just not going to work.
No.
But even the things that like AOC and all these things were trying to say, we need to eliminate cars, we need to eliminate planes, we need to eliminate all these things. How are we going to get around?
Right.
Right.
No, they don't think about that. That, it's kind of the concept of, like, everybody wants world peace. Of course we want world peace. Nobody wants somebody to starve to death. But the absolute reality is it's not unicorn farts and rainbows.
Yeah.
It's just not. And I think that's almost like, I guess, a grown-up attitude. I don't know how to else, like, explain it other than it's an actual reality that we can't save everybody. We can't help everybody.
We can't.
We have to be able to focus on America first, which is, obviously the reason why Donald Trump was so popular with the middle class, with, conservatives with everyday people, because he was like, listen, I'm not saying that we don't help other countries. What I'm saying is we don't help other countries until our country is okay and safe and supplied.
Absolutely. I mean, you're a parent, I'm a parent.
Right.
Are we going to go feed our neighbors' kids before our own kids go get fed, or before are we going to let them go hungry?
Right. Like we make charity donations at least once a month, but like when we came off the road, we had to call those charities and say, hey, we can't make our donation this month. We have to feed our children. It's not about being selfish. It's not about being heartless.
It's called being responsible.
Being responsible, right? I mean, what a grown-up attitude.
Yeah, we can't be responsible.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and that's like one thing, guys. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, yes, we do have notes that we're going here, that kind of things that we went over. On the podcast, you won't see it, of course. But one of the things that actually struck me, I was watching Fox Business the other day, and Biden said capitalism without competition is exploitation, which to me is totally true.
Right.
Now, but the problem with this is when competition is the government taking control, which is what they want to do.
Right.
That is not exploitation. That's communism.
Right. Right. Which shouldn't, I mean, really, if anybody's been paying attention the last, almost decade now, should not surprise us, but somehow it does. Somehow we're like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? Or at least it seems like the majority of the population is surprised by any of this. But I think most of us, and I know me and you have had conversations about this probably years ago, most of us saw this coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just to a point where how much more can we scream? How much more can we warn to wake people up?
People don't remember. I mean, waking people up. People don't remember 2 years ago.
They don't remember 5 minutes ago. Sometimes.
You know, it's crazy. I mean, they're not people; they're sheeple.
Right.
And you know, they have an agenda, and it's like, I don't know if you were watching, like the View. Whoopi Goldberg actually said yesterday. She goes, inflation. That's not Biden's problem. That's not Biden. Fuel prices.
What?
That's not Biden's fault. That's Trump's fault. I'm like, Trump hasn't been president for over a year.
Right. Right.
You know, gas prices are $2 a gallon more than they were then.
Right. Right.
We were energy independent.
Yes.
We were actually selling oil back to Russia.
Right.
And some of these countries that now we're trying to buy oil from.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right. And it's an absolute insult to the American people. But again, you know, people can't remember 5 minutes ago when this stuff with Ukraine broke out. I was like, wait a minute, we're Team Ukraine now? I thought we were just talking, 6 months ago about the corruption.
About how corrupt Ukraine is. Ukraine's actually known to be one of the highest human trafficking countries in the world.
Yeah, I think they are they're like in the top 5 at least. I can't remember.
Yeah,
exactly
they're terrible.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden everybody's, you know, the president of Ukraine is now a hero.
Right.
So I just don't get it. I think, I hate to say it, actually I don't hate to say it, but I think the reason Biden's wanting this war in Ukraine and trying to pump all this stuff there is it's covering up for what him and his son had going on in business over there.
You know, I mean, let's not go down the super rabbit hole, but
oh my gosh, yeah.
It's possible. You know, anything at this point is like, you know, possible.
I just have to say thanks for coming over. Because of you, my name is probably on several other watch lists.
You're
but
welcome.
It's okay. Life goes on.
I guess if you're not on a watch list by now, you're just not, you know.
Yeah, I mean.
You're not American enough, I guess.
What gets me, though, is these people, they think that we're all stupid.
Yeah.
And, well, I hate to say it, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
But people just, you know, if you go ask questions, like some of the shows you watch, you see some of these people and they go on the beaches and stuff and they're asking, what's this? What do you think about this? And people have no idea what's going on in their government.
No, they don't know history. I mean, I got in trouble because I had done a New York Times article or interview, and I had said something like, if we don't stop this hostile atmosphere in our country, we're going to end up, you know, with blood in the streets. There will be a bloody civil war if we're not already in a cold civil war. And this wasn't me screaming for civil war if I wasn't getting my way. This is me saying, hey, we have a clear problem. Not because I know some secret information, but because I read a history book. Right. Open a history book. Look at our Civil War or our Revolutionary War, and you can very much see patterns. I always like to say, like, sometimes conspiracy theorists are just people that are capable of seeing the patterns that history tells us repeats themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
History, if without checking it, it's going to repeat itself.
Yeah.
You know, we need to learn from history.
Yeah.
But it just blows my mind. I mean, we have an administration that is going so far left that where everybody else, it's basically, they have the attitude, they call themselves the party of unity and forgiveness and all this stuff.
Right.
But realistically, it's the party of, if you don't believe what I believe and you don't vote for what I tell you to vote,
Right.
you are now either a terrorist,
Yep.
or you're incompetent, or you're, especially he's talking about on the mega train and all this other stuff.
Right.
It's just like, come on, guys.
Right.
I like a little bit of differences. I mean, if you think about it, the world would be a really stupid, crazy, boring place.
Right.
If everybody thought and looked exactly the same.
Right. I mean,
diversity is fun, is great.
Well, we used to be able to talk about our differences. Like, I can recall, like, not personally because it's never been in my lifetime, but, well, actually, I can't say that. I can recall a time where, I have a crazy liberal brother who is, like, absolutely insane. I can recall a time where we could still have differences. We could say, hey, I don't agree with this and I don't agree with this, and at the end of the day still hug each other. Again, I go back to that whole hostile environment where now it's like literally he's making reports and telling everybody what a crazy terrorist I am, or I'm
well, yeah. I mean, if you don't think the way they think, you're either a terrorist or you're racist.
Right. I mean, I'm married to a black man, and he like literally had a conversation with my husband where he was like, you're not a black man because you don't act like a black man. And my husband was like, please, God, be really racist
You're an
right
Uncle
now.
Tom or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Which Uncle Tom, if you really read the book, Uncle Tom was a little bit of a hero in that book too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, have you actually read the book, or are you just quoting something that somebody else told you?
But I think they're, again, history.
Oh, what?
Wasn't the Democratic Party the party of the Klan?
Yeah. They were also, you can even go back further than that. It was the Southern, quote unquote, Democrats that forced the northern states,
because they wanted the plantations. They wanted the free labor.
Right. I explain that to anybody. They don't understand. Like, listen, the Declaration of Independence would have freed all humans, all men, except for the way it was set up. It had to be a unanimous vote.
Mm-hmm.
And the southern states obviously didn't want that because they wanted to keep their plantation. So, I mean, this is a pattern in our history that people have forgotten completely. And now the Republican Party are the racist people. I mean, it's absolutely absurd.
I had a person in one of my classes here, it's been a few weeks ago or actually it's been a couple of months ago. They asked me, they said, what would you do if, we were talking just after the class, what would you do if you're, you talk about people in the class, said, what would you do if your daughter married a black man? I said, does he treat her well?
Right.
And I said, I don't care. As long as he treats her well, that's all that matters to me.
That's all that matters.
And, the thing is, but even with that, I'm still racist according to other people and white privilege. Right. I'll tell you what, I wish I had some white privilege, honestly. I mean, people talk about discrimination.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to be discrimination. I mean, I'm a 53-year-old white fat man. I know what discrimination is like. I've been discriminated several times against. So I feel for you.
I can't, there's different forms of discrimination.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't, again, it goes back to, you can't even tell the left that, hey, maybe you're right on this. Maybe I agree with you on this, because then somehow you're trying to disrupt, or you're trying to, you're an evil Republican. There is no, I guess that's the point of kind of, we need to come back to, there has to be more common ground between people on the right,
absolutely,
people on the left, because I think fundamentally we agree on a lot of the same concepts.
I wonder if it would make a difference if we brought it back when it was back in the 60s and 70s, who won the election, the person who won the election became president, and the loser became vice president.
I don't know. I would be deathly afraid. Can you imagine if Trump was president and Hillary was like vice president, or like Biden?
Yeah. I guarantee you,
somebody died.
Somebody would be on suicide watch.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's an interesting concept. I mean, I think we absolutely need some sort of third party. in the system.
I mean, yeah, it's getting to the point now we have to.
We have
I mean, I'm, how do I put this? I'm registered as a Republican,
right.
but I'm more, I mean, some people say I'm more libertarian.
Right.
I don't even call myself libertarian. I call myself a constitutionalist.
That's what I've
You know,
started calling myself.
But now because
more.
of that, I'm
yeah.
a terrorist and a racist.
And if you have something that says 1776, you're a terrorist at this point.
Oh my gosh!
Ask me how I know that, but trust me.
Yeah, it's just insane. I mean, the thing is I'm the type of person is you do what makes you happy.
Right.
I'll do what makes me happy.
Right.
You don't push your
on me,
and I won't push mine on you, and we'll all get along.
That's it. I mean, like the whole argument over, how people identify. I don't care. I actually have friends like Lady Maga. I love her, or him, whichever way you want to call her. I call her because she goes by her sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But even when somebody dresses like a woman, there's this whole like underlying theme with her or him, where she's like, I might wear a wig and I might wear makeup sometimes, but that doesn't make me a man. Mm-hmm. Nor would she force that on somebody else. Like if somebody accidentally, quote unquote, misgendered her, it wouldn't be a like, oh God, report you. You need to go to jail. It would be, I guess it's like an understanding, right? I wouldn't get mad if somebody called me a he, or I'd be like, hey, I'm obviously a girl, but whatever, call me what you want. I mean, I guess I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
I mean, I actually had a lady that I was friends with at one point, who's an instructor here in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And we were talking and she kind of got off on left field and I said something that evidently kind of she didn't agree with. And she was just kind of went off a little bit. And I'm like, sweetie, just relax.
Oh God.
And the minute I said, sweetie, oh my gosh, you don't say that. You da da da. I'm like, I'm from the South. Everybody's sweetie and honey.
I'm born and raised.
That's a term of endearment. It's not. It's nothing derogatory.
I call everybody sweetie or hun or sugar or boo boo.
Yeah, I mean, political correctness. We've passed the line of political correctness to where it's destroying us. I mean,
it's like it's like 1983 level, like Orwell, like. I want that to be fiction again.
Yeah, I mean, really, realistically, absolutely. And then you hear about this thing. One thing that's really, I don't know if you heard about this, was yesterday. I saw it on the news. We kind of got off some of the topics, which is good, okay. But which is fine. But one of the things that I saw here yesterday on the news, they were talking about some of the COVID relief money.
Right.
16 blue states was taking. They caught billions of dollars.
Right.
I think Michigan was like 6.5 billion or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but was one of the 16 states that took COVID relief money that was supposed to go to businesses to help keep them open and keep them to the point where they could survive. So when we got through this, instead of releasing this money to the businesses, they're trying to put businesses under and arrest people because they have to pay their bills.
Right.
Now, where did that money go? It went to the schools pushing the critical race theory agenda and things of that nature. They want to talk about a divide between the races. Stop driving a wedge.
Right. I mean, my family is we're like a very multicultural family. Mm-hmm. I'm Filipino. My husband's black. I mean, we both have white parents. Like, I feel like it's almost unfair to mix kids who are like, okay, which side of me do I hate then, right? Like, can you imagine being like my son or my daughter that's sitting in class and, my sons have black, have Filipino, or I guess, there's a mixture in there, whatever.
Mine's 57.
Right. And going, okay, but I have everything in me. So do I hate myself or do I hate my mom because she's lighter skinned than my dad? Like, or do I hate myself because I happen to have some quote unquote white in me? And it's just disgusting to think that we have, Rosa Parks, Ida B. Wells, Martin Luther King, such amazing, amazing people in the history of our country. And I know the liberals or the left don't want to acknowledge it, but they are taking everything those people fought, and indeed, Martin Luther King died over it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a debate on who killed him. But
Yeah.
we won't get into that. But they're taking all that work and that progress, and it's being thrown out the window. We had a generation that fought to end segregation, and now, unfortunately, my generation, I'm a millennial, don't hate me.
Hey, I'm a Gen X.
My generation is like, now we're going to fight for segregation. And it's absolutely disgusting either way. If it's a white person doing it or if it's a black person doing it, it doesn't matter. It's discussion.
I don't remember who said it, but I heard something similar that it's a person that's within politics and power said that maybe we should be segregated and have the whites with the whites and the black. I'm like, why?
What?
That just quit driving that wedge.
Right.
Instead of tearing each other apart, you think we would have the people would say, stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
All right.
And let's come together.
No, it's become this disgusting. We keep reverting, and it's like, man, we work so hard. And again, I have to acknowledge history, right? We actually are very, in the grand scheme of the world, we're actually a very young country. And
270 years old?
Right. That's relatively, I mean, that sounds like a long time, but that's relatively
Well, not when you're
young.
looking at Europe and stuff over their place that have been around thousands of years.
And if we look at the point where, from when we were founded as a country to when we did end slavery, yes, I'm fully acknowledging the horrendous things that happened. I would never try to minimize that.
No, not at all.
But the point where we started as a country and we ended slavery is a blink of an eye.
But that doesn't mean the thing is because that was a part of a part of our history.
Right.
That when you tear these cities and state or counties and towns, let's tear down this statue, let's tear down this monument.
Right.
I'm against that, and the reason being, if nothing else, that monument can stand as a reminder of what we don't want to go back to.
Right. Right.
Because if you erase it, you forget about it, it's going to repeat itself.
Well, I mean, and that kind of goes back to the left have to acknowledge that they're the party of the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
They're the party of socialism, Nazism. They don't want to admit it. They'll never admit it.
Well, but their thing of socialism, they talk about is democracy. We're a democracy. No, we're not.
No.
We're a constitutional republic.
Absolutely. But you can't say that either, because that makes you a terrorist as well.
But people don't understand the difference, really.
No, they don't.
I mean, they don't understand. A democracy is basically the majority rules.
Right.
And in a constitutional republic, everybody's voice matters.
Right.
Everybody has a say. That's why this whole thing, we're going all kinds of things. About the electoral college.
Right.
We need the popular vote. No, our forefathers saw that could be a problem.
Right.
And they set up the electoral college to get every state and everybody have an equal vote to where not one certain section could run over everything.
Well, because even back then, I mean, people living in New York City lived far different than somebody living on a farm in Pennsylvania. But they needed to establish a way
Excuse me.
for everybody's vote to count.
Sure.
Somebody in New York might not agree with somebody in Pennsylvania, but they equally had to have a say in the election. And to have people just say, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. And I'm like, okay, when you're screaming in the street, this is what democracy looks like. In a way, you're kind of ironically true, but then that would give the mob rule over, or give them power over the individual right, which again, constitutional republic protects.
Yep, absolutely. People forget that. I mean, the thing is what a lot of people forget things. A lot of people just don't know. I mean, when I was growing up, we not only had to pass the state constitutional test, and we had to pass state constitution. We also had to pass federal constitution.
Right.
And, our Bill of Rights and our amendments and things like that, and had to learn all these things. They don't teach that in school anymore.
No.
It's gone.
I think I was well into my late 20s before I realized, wait a minute, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic.
Yeah.
And that's scary. That's really scary that it took even me that long to go, wait a minute. I've been taught something completely different.
I'll tell you what, people, if you want to see a movie that's kind of what our government is turning into, watch the movie Idiocracy.
I don't think I've seen that.
Watch that movie. It is that's what our government and our country is turning into.
Wow.
It'll blow your mind. I'm not going to give anything away. Just watch it.
I will watch it.
But yeah, we're going down the wrong road. The way the things are going on. I don't know if you just heard also about other things in the world. I mean, we could go on and on forever, but there's just so many things going on, especially things against Israel. I don't know, Syria's shot down a couple of Israeli planes and stuff like that from Russia. And, I don't want to, one of the things we talk about on the things is religion, but, as a Christian, this is exciting, actually. I mean, as a Christian, it's exciting because it talks back about the coming back of Christ.
Right.
But the human side of you goes, oh my God, what is going to happen? So, but I don't want to go back down that rabbit hole right now. Let's kind of get a little bit back on topic. One of the things we're talking about is money that's was Ukraine we were talking about.
Right.
And I don't know if you heard it or not, but last week the House voted on it. And today the Senate passed another $40 billion of aid to Ukraine on top of the 14 that we've already given them.
Right.
We've given Ukraine more money in the last 60 days than we would spend an entire year in Afghanistan.
Right. Well, I mean, again, going back, I got people's point of like, we've been in Afghanistan too long. But again, I have to point out in the history of things, 20 years is actually not that long to secure a location, right? I mean, we're still in Germany from World War II.
Japan.
So, I got just reamed a new one because I was like, no. I've talked to the people that served in Afghanistan. I've talked to the people, the veterans. And I couldn't find, I don't want to say certainty, but I couldn't find very many, we'll say, who were like, yes, we need to pull out of Afghanistan because they knew
what would happen.
We all saw it coming.
We're going to be back over there again.
Oh, yeah. Not only will we be back over, but that, again, everybody has a problem with what's going on in Ukraine. That wouldn't have happened. At least I believe. I'm not a military strategist. But I definitely think that would have put a hamper in what's going on in Ukraine and Russia.
Well, absolutely. But not only that, when we go back to there again, here's another rabbit hole running. We go back to Afghanistan. We're going to be fighting against a lot of our own equipment and materials because of what was left.
Yeah.
And they said, well, they left all the helicopters. Nothing was able to be used. Well, then why was there a Black Hawk flying around with a banner being flown from it? But that's that's a whole other discussion.
Oh God, we could get into how they
but with Ukraine and all that money, I mean, I think we need to be worried about here first. I mean, instead of worrying about, I understand that the people over there are hurting, and I believe in giving them aid, but the entire world should be giving them aid. It's not just the United States. What's the funny part is it seems like the United States is one of the most hated countries in the world, but yet when something happens, we're the first there with our, giving what we need to.
Right.
But, we talk about there's going to be all these people that are disrupted, their lives are disrupted and things over there in Ukraine, which I understand is, it is a terrible thing.
Absolutely.
But we've got 100 million people here that are homeless and need food and shelter themselves.
Right.
And I know we have a lot of different programs and stuff like that. But what drives me mad is we talk about, you always hear about we're going to give $200 billion or this $1 billion or this many, and it's not millions, it's billions and billions. But then, oh my gosh, we got to do something because Social Security is going dry.
Right.
We don't have any money for Social Security.
Right.
We don't have any money for this.
Right.
Well, if we don't have money for that, how do we have money to give these other countries? Right. I don't understand that.
This was one of the problems I had running for Congress because it's a delicate balance. I get it. We do need to be there helping our neighbors and helping people who want to live in a freedom atmosphere. The problem with the whole Ukraine thing, and I guess it's perplexing to me. I don't know if you knew who Elena Oki is. She ran for Congress on the other side of the state against
No.
So she's a refugee from Ukraine, and she herself has come out and said, I don't understand what the problem is because, there are so many circumstances. Like, Ukraine was bombing its own people, and we said nothing. Ukraine is the one that broke the peace treaty with Russia. Russia said, hey, we'll leave you alone if you keep, UN troops off my border. And that didn't happen. So it's not like a clear black and white. And by no means am I saying that, I'm a Putin fan.
I'm not a Putin fan, but I know One of the things, I don't know if you heard, they said that they believe he might have terminal cancer.
Right.
And that, so this might be a last ditch effort for him. I don't know, because one of the things he wanted to bring was the Soviet Union back to its glory.
Right.
But I'm not a Putin fan, folks. But here's something you got to think about. If Putin's not there,
who's going to be there?
Who's going to be there, and who's going to be in control of their 6 million or 6,000 nuclear weapons?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one they just launched here a couple of months ago, the Satan II, or whatever it is.
About that.
It's the largest ICBM missile in the world.
Oh, that's
They said it has enough, the warheads on it are enough that within one missile can carry enough warheads with enough power to destroy an area that's half the size of Texas.
Oh,
One. That's crazy. And then the hypersonics and all this other stuff, missiles in China, it's crazy. But,
I mean, did you see that and I'm sorry, these were Republicans doing this too, and I just don't understand. I mean, again, it goes back to knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at a map, like a flat map of the world, and they're like, I don't know why you guys are so concerned. Russia's on the other side of the world. And I'm like, so
it's called the North Pole, and it goes right over the top.
It's a globe, so Russia is actually a lot closer than you think. Like, it's knowledge, and it's questioning everything that they don't like to do.
I don't think people realize that this up in Alaska, that the Alaska and Russia, the United States and Alaska, is only separated by like 40 miles.
Right. Like, people made fun of Sarah Palin, and I'm like, but maybe she's exaggerating a little bit, but like not by much. Like, Alaska and Russia are very, very close together, you guys.
Closer than the width of the state of Michigan.
No kidding. See, I didn't know that.
I mean, well, look at it. I mean, 40 miles.
Yeah.
That's like from here. I mean, we're in Grand Rapids. That's like from here to the lakeshore almost.
Right.
Or from here to Lansing. That's not far.
It's a lot closer than people want to acknowledge. So I'm like, listen, if they attack, I mean, obviously, if they attack us, obviously, I'm a peace through strength girl, absolutely, 100%. I don't feel like we're being told everything about the Russia-Ukraine situation, and just the fact that we're not being told everything makes me suspicious that we should even be involving ourselves in that.
Yeah, again, like I said, I mean, we've got so much things here that we need to worry about ourselves. We're the inflation and things like that, what's going on, it's going out of control. I was just looking on the thing of labor and statistics. Actually just pulled the charts on it just a little while ago. And they were saying that even though these places, like people are talking about, well, McDonald's, $14, $15 an hour and things like that. They said, even though they're making more money in April of 2021, where they may have been making like $9.80 an hour, was the national average. The national average now, even though people are getting paid more, is like $9.50 an hour, because of inflation is eating up the rest of it. So they're actually making more money per hour, but bringing less home, because by the time they have to pay everything.
I think I can't remember where I read it once, that people back in the 1950s actually were making more money, not like by the dollar, but we're able to pay for more than we can now because of our inflation. But I mean, I think this is, again, it's something we warned about, right? Like, we were like, you saw all the socialists and the communists, and they're like, oh, these greedy corporations should be paying $15 an hour. And it was brought up time and time again. Well, what makes you think these greedy corporations, if forced to pay $15 an hour, aren't going to charge you now $10 for a cheeseburger?
Well, yeah. I mean, and I have some numbers here. Just kind of go over these real quick. The percentage of inflation, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, gas from 2 years ago has gone up 43.6%. Electricity, 11%. We're going to get on electricity here in just a second. Meat, poultry, and fish, 3.8%. And poultry is going to go through the roof because of all the bird flu and everything that's going on.
Right.
How many billions of birds have died?
I mean, is it sad that I go, that's not suspicious at all? You destroy the beef. Now maybe I'm just paranoid.
Milk, milk, 14.7. Eggs, 22.6. Coffee, 13.5. Used cars, 22.7. Airline fares, 33.3. It says the real average hourly income has gone down by even though our hourly on paper, by what we're actually getting paid per hour, has gone up, the average hourly income has gone down 2.6%.
I I did not like realize those numbers were that extreme, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
But here's the thing. This is what's scary. I mean, they're talking about food shortage and stuff. They're like, like prepping and stuff.
Right.
They used to say to have 3 days worth of food and water.
Right.
What do you think they're saying now to have?
Probably like 6 months.
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. It went from 3 days to 3 weeks to 3 months.
Right.
So there's a reason.
That. They go in the basement and get everything out of the basement. I was set. I was prepped, and like I go down there the other day, and like my son had taken a big like 5-gallon thing of like, I guess it wasn't 5 gallon, but a huge thing of peaches and ate it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm like, really?
But on that, and let's think, think about this, with a diesel shortage, this is not going to do anything but go higher.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everything that we have comes from diesel.
Right.
I mean, not that it's made with diesel, but it has to be transported.
Right.
Trains, trucking, all that is all diesel.
Right.
Not only that, but our goods that are coming, we become so reliant upon other countries for our goods.
Right.
This, this goes back to, I know, oh, they're wonderful, the Clintons. Yeah, I got another thing about the Clintons. Don't really give on that.
I'm very good friends with Juanita Broderick, so I ain't got nothing nice to say about the Clintons.
Yeah, we worked with some human trafficking groups, and I got some things on the Clintons too. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to end up in jail and committing suicide. Right. So, but that's beside the point. Now, with that being said, with all the trucking and the fuel prices, like I said, back then, they started sourcing everything out because we started, instead of worrying about our own economy, we tried worrying about a quote world economy.
Yes.
Why did we want to go to a world economy? Because the left wants a one world government,
right? And they're not hiding it. Everything, it's so funny how that progresses. Like, you start off and it's like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, and it's like, yeah,
no, it's fact. Look, open your eyes.
Everything I've said the last, I don't know, 7-8 years has now come to light. Like, how are you not seeing this now? Do you ever feel crazy?
Again, if you're a quote Christian, read the Bible. It's right there. It's right there. Yeah, but people.
I mean, I'm okay with I'm like, yes, God's coming back, but I'm like, oh God, there's going to be so much suffering in between.
Oh yeah.
That's what gets me with seeing the stuff that's in the Bible and seeing stuff that is very blatantly in our face.
Well, when we ended, I'm going to share something with you. I've got several friends that are pastors and are in different groups, and I'm going to tell you what a lot of their theory is now. Before we go, because I know when I say this, it's going to open up a whole can of worms. Because I guarantee we're going to get comments made about it.
You're just going to be stirring that pot.
I'm going to stir that pot, and that pot doesn't smell real good.
Nope.
Now, with that being said, the cost of goods going up because everything being shipped, but because we started outsourcing everything, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but they're talking about going electric. They're pushing the Green New Deal, electric cars.
Yeah.
Well, the lithium for these cars comes from China.
Right.
80% of our pharmaceuticals come from China because they've outsourced it. 70% of the world's corn is produced in China. 40 to 50% of the corn, of wheat, barley, soy, all that is produced in Ukraine and Russia.
Right.
They were paying our farmers not to plant.
Right.
So because they were outsourcing everything. It's not because of, they talk about the people are going starving across the world. Well, if that's the case, why aren't the farmers busy as all get out?
Right.
Because they were told not to plant. They were paid not to plant. That's why we have a farmers are going out of business.
It's actually like legit. I'm sure you've read The Art of War. I'm sure you've read The Prince. Like, it's a very basic concept, and you can see it if you're willing to see it. You control the population. How do you do that? You disarm them. How do you disarm them? You control the media.
And if you can't get this generation to do it, you work on the next.
Right. You control the food supply.
Yeah.
If you're dependent on the government for your food, you're going to do whatever
they tell you
to do. The weak-minded will.
Well, but the thing is these farmers out there, I was watching Fox Business, and they were interviewing a farmer, and they're trying to get, Biden's trying to get all these farmers. He was, I don't know if you saw, he was in Iowa or whatever it is, and he did the interview in the field with the farmer, and they were interviewing a farmer, and the farmer said, we can't do anything. And they said, why? They said, our herbicides that we use for weed control,
right, what
would normally cost us $1,000 for our field in herbicide is now $11,000. That's not even including fertilizer, which the main ingredient in fertilizer is potash, which comes from China.
Oh no.
Which they're not even they're not even shipping anything out. Saigon is, or Shanghai or whatever, is on lockdown. No boats are coming, nothing's coming in and out. You know, we got boats still 150 miles off the shore of the United States where the food that's in theirs are just rotting, and the stuff they're not bringing it in. Why?
We had that problem that affects trucking too.
Absolutely.
Our truck was just broken down for 2 weeks, and it wasn't that ours needed a part; it just needed something cleaned or something to help it start. But there was so many trucks in front of it because they couldn't get the parts to fix the trucks. So it's like an all-around thing. It's not just the diesel; it's getting parts in for, you know, the diesel trucks.
So people, it's not. This isn't going to fix itself soon, anytime soon.
No,
this is going to be a while.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, it's what people call, you know, the norm.
Right.
It's no longer the norm; it's the new norm. We're now this is our new normal now.
Right.
But the thing is, what I'm trying to say here is, I keep running down the rabbit hole, but we go. But what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to outsourcing this stuff, we've become so dependent on outsourcing and stuff from other countries that now when we start needing it ourselves, we can't do it.
We're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
Lots of trouble, yes.
You know, people are going to go hungry.
Yep.
You know, we teach CPL classes, and I'm not trying to promote that or something like that.
Which is
but
a great
we
class.
see people. Yeah, you took my class.
I took your class.
We have people that take our class, and we ask people, why do you want to take it? And the main thing we're getting is now it's crazy. I want to protect my family. I don't know what's going to happen next. Yep. So you know, it's going to get crazier, guys. It's
going to get really bad. It's going to get much worse before it gets better, and I'm afraid it's not going to get better unless people, like, again, realize I honestly 100% agree. Believe that it's not Republicans versus Democrats.
No,
it's absolutely evil versus
good. It's good versus evil.
Yep.
There's an agenda out there, and it's a worldwide agenda, and it's scary. Now, remember I talked about electricity. Said we'd get back to electricity.
Yeah, what?
I just read an article. I don't know. Well, you know Steve Doolin.
Yeah.
I just read an article. Steve had it posted on Facebook, where they're talking about rolling outages or mandatory power outages in Michigan this year.
Yes.
The Holland plant is talking about shutting down because they're not, quote, green. But they're talking about power outages, mandatory power outages. That's why, to say all these people that went through and they got these smart meters.
Yes.
They have the power to control. They have the power to turn your electricity off at the push of a button.
Yep.
So be prepared, folks. We're going to have mandatory outages.
Yep. We moved into our new house, and that was the one thing that really disturbed me, is it was already installed, and I'm like, okay, we're going to make sure we got.
And if you don't have it, they charge you like an extra $40 or $50 a month not to have it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're going to look into getting solar panels, but I thought there was something about those that didn't coincide with what's going on either. So,
yeah.
I mean, everywhere you look, I mean, people they get on me a lot about that. Like, you know, you're so down, and I'm like, I'm just trying to be real and give you the information you need to have to change it. You need to be awake, not woke. Yep. But you need to be awake.
Well, one of the last things I want to talk about here, a little bit about the Second Amendment. You know, one of the things that the leftists always talk about, never let a tragedy go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Always take everything you can.
Yeah. Go to waste.
Never let a tragedy go to waste.
Yes.
I don't want to empower this guy with the Buffalo shooting, and I want to pray and feel so bad for the families that lost their lives, and the people that lost their lives and their families. And but the thing is I'm getting sick and tired of hearing it on the news and all this thing.
Yeah.
Shut up about it. Yeah. Because all they're doing they're doing exactly what this kid wants.
Right.
He wants to be known.
Yep.
And every time they're doing that, they're empowering him. Not only that, but this kid had a record that was they knew he was nuts. I mean, he had been in mental facilities, all kinds of stuff. Teachers, he had been talking for a long time about wanting to kill people.
Oh my!
They just ignore it, you know. So you hear every time something comes on or something happens, the left, instead of trying to come up with a solution to fix it or to keep it from happening again, only thing they can do is come on and try to tell innocent people, how to try to disarm innocent people.
Right.
I mean, think about it. If there were more people that were armed when he went in there,
right,
how far would he have gotten?
Right.
They talk about, that there was a off-duty cop or a retired cop that was working security that was killed, and he still got killed. Yeah, but how much did he slow him down, and how many more
Right.
people may have been killed?
Right.
But I don't, like I said, I don't want to glorify this guy, but the thing is what gets me is it's not about how we can fix it. It's about how can I use this to benefit myself and my political agenda.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, every time something happens, we see this outcry for gun control, but they don't want to acknowledge that, more people are saved with guns a year. They don't want to
It's like
acknowledge.
3 to 4 times more.
Right.
But they don't hear about that.
I think we had talked about, there was a study, I wish I could remember where it was, but they literally interviewed these criminals, and they're like, hey, it was something like they're 80% less likely to commit a crime on somebody that they know is armed. That's got to say something. The crime statistics in these cities and these states where the gun control is the highest, they have the most gun violence.
Well, one of the things you hear talk about, well, they want to turn it back into the Wild West.
Yeah.
The Wild West really wasn't that wild. Everybody carried a gun, and if you did something stupid, you got killed.
Right. Yeah.
No,
like, not that I'm okay with, like, killing somebody without a trial.
No,
or anything
there,
like that,
yeah.
But, I feel more secure when I have my gun on me.
Absolutely. I mean, I got a rule: ABC, always be carrying.
Yep.
But the thing is they take advantage of this to try to push this agenda, and it kind of which instead of dealing with the people and what's going on and trying to come up with a solution, they want to add more laws. They want to do this, and none of these laws are doing anything. No. These laws, you can have 10,000 more laws on the books, but if you don't enforce the laws you have, they're not going to do any good.
I mean,
now with that being said, Sacramento, with Sacramento here about a month and a half ago, they had the shooting in Sacramento.
I didn't get to read much on that.
Okay.
I didn't.
Now, immediately the next day, the White House comes out and puts a post. This is why we need to get Congress and stuff to enact and write more legislation and more gun laws and ammunition, magazine capacity limits and all this other stuff. No assault weapons, no this. Everything that they had on there was things that California already has laws about. And did it stop it from happening?
No,
absolutely not.
Criminals don't follow
care.
Laws. Yeah,
they
criminals.
don't care.
Yeah, I mean, it's really ridiculous because it's so apparent. Again, it goes back to, I mean, politics in general, especially here in Michigan. It's not about what's best for me or you or what's constitutional. It's about taking the power away from the individual American citizen and giving it to the government, giving it to, whatever entities in power in any more way. It's about removing your constitutional rights because once they have disarmed us, they can now control us. It's like a thing that has happened over history. I mean, even before there was guns, they were still disarming populations when they wanted to take over. It's so blatantly apparent, and it's frustrating.
Well, and again, it's not about the shooter himself. It's not about the people that were killed. I mean, if that were the case, why wouldn't they be paying more attention to, like, Chicago? On the same weekend in Chicago, 33 people were shot with multiple deaths, and that's almost on a daily basis. Right. But we don't hear about that.
No, we don't, because it doesn't follow their agenda.
It doesn't follow their agenda.
Yep.
The thing is like I said, when you follow their agenda, they want to do away with the second because that's the only thing that's actually keeping them back from totally running over everybody in total tyranny.
Right.
I mean, people don't understand it's the teeth to everything else for all the other.
Everything.
But with that, not only that, but again, with this kid, it drives me nuts that they're just, every time they bring him up and they talk about it, they're glorifying, they're raising him to a status that he wants to be. And to me, honestly, this kid is nothing more than a gnat fart in my life, as far as I'm concerned. Right. I mean, he's nothing but a skid mark in the underwear of life. Right. I could care less what happens to this kid, But the thing is what's happening is, even when they keep glorifying that, there's other kids out there and people that are like him. Absolutely. And exactly what he said is what caused him to, one of the things that pushed him to do this was hearing about the other ones that took place. Oh my God. And with COVID being locked down, and all he did is research this stuff and go into that. You think that other kids aren't doing the same thing, or other people aren't doing that? All they're doing is setting things up for copycat.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's sad. It's absolutely sad.
And, let's not even talk about how the culture kind of persuades them to do it, because it's not his fault. It's the gun's fault. There's always this culture we have, the woke culture, is just always an acceptance for, anything, bad behavior, if you will. It's, I personally don't have to take responsibility. It's somebody else's problem. Like,
Yep.
I don't have to take responsibility for my feelings because somebody else has got to take care of that, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
My daughter, a girl she went to school with who she was good friends with school, her parents wouldn't let her be friends with my daughter anymore because I own guns and because of what I do.
Big daddy.
And they live about 3 blocks away from here.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually called me on the phone and he said, I don't appreciate you owning guns because one of them is liable to go off and hit one of my kids.
Are you serious?
I'm like, Jim, you're 3 blocks away. There's 40 houses and 200 trees. You think that my guns are just, I mean, I set them out on my porch one day
And screamed at them and told them to shoot you?
and nobody got hit.
I mean, I don't know what's
And
wrong
if
with your
gun
guns.
shows were so dangerous, how does anybody survive? It's like I said, it's all on agenda. But we've been on here for now an hour and 20 minutes, so we probably better wrap this up. But the thing that I remember, I said I'm going to end this with something that's going to be stir that pot and going to be very controversial.
Let's stir it, Jeff.
Those of you that are Christians, you hear them talk about the Antichrist and things like that.
Yep.
A lot of with a lot of the Christians and people in theology and stuff like that are believing that possibly that the president of Ukraine could be the Antichrist. And the reason being because here's somebody that has come from nothing.
Yep.
And the Bible says the Antichrist will be Jewish.
Yep.
He's Jewish.
He's Jewish.
And this guy has gone from nothing to where now in over just a matter of weeks is now a national hero.
Right. Yeah.
Or not a national, international hero.
Yep. And it's, I don't like the blind loyalty to him.
I'm not saying he is.
Right.
I'm not saying he is,
Right.
but I mean, things are crazy. And you hear people say, well, they've been talking about the rapture and this stuff happening for thousands of years. Yes, they did.
But everything's fitting now. Like, they had a few things.
Well, there was
maybe.
prophecy that had to be fulfilled, but the Bible also says that knowledge will be exponential. It'll be just be everywhere.
Right.
I mean, think about it. And with things in the world, 100 years ago,
Right.
100 years ago, we could only lob basically cannonballs at each other.
Right.
Now we have the capability to destroy the world 50 times
In a
over.
heartbeat. Yeah.
Communication, something that would happen in Europe, we would never hear about. Now we hear about it real time
Right.
because of the communications.
Yep.
I know the Bible says that no man knows the time or the day or the seat, but it says even Christ doesn't know, only God the Father knows.
Well, doesn't it say something about in the end times that people will knowingly be sinful and have no repentance from it too?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a lot.
What was taboo to one generation is now acceptable to the next.
Right.
We've become a generation. I mean, that's the thing with one thing. There we could do a whole show on this. Parents be parents, man. Be parents.
Yep.
Don't just stick your kids in front of a game or a movie or TV. Be parents.
Yep.
But yeah, the thing is the Bible says that no man knows the time, that only God the Father knows the time.
Right.
But it does says we can tell by the seasons. In other words, there's going to be signs of the seasons, things that we can say, okay, better get ready.
Right. Well,
So
I mean, we can go into the mark of the beast, which, I mean, I have this argument with my mom. She's like, oh, the vaccination's not the mark of the beast. And I said, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's not, but it's really kind of similar. If you're willing to take this vaccination.
I don't think it is, because the Bible says that it's a mark upon the hand of the forehead.
Right.
Not an injection in the arm, but I think it's opening the door and preparing people, conditioning.
I guess that's where I was going to.
Conditioning people for that.
If they're forcing you to take this and you're just saying, okay, well, I can't go to a restaurant unless I take it, or I can't go buy groceries unless I take it. I'm like, are you really going to be able to stand up against the Antichrist, Satan, and in the flesh, and say, no, I'm not taking the mark of the beast? But
yeah, yeah, it's insane. It's a crazy world, guys. But we need to wrap this up. It's getting late, and but I want to thank Audra. Thanks for coming. I want to have you again. Be a regular. I enjoy it. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
And guys out there, stop trying to tear each other apart. Stop trying to look for the bad in each other, no matter what race, religion, or anything, or orientation. Look for the good in each other. Lift each other up. Help each other. Love each other. I mean, we're all human beings, and we all are just trying to make it day by day. So you guys stay safe. We'll talk to you soon, and God bless.